Good morning, diggers. I hope you're well. It was so lovely to see those of you that could zoom in last week for our Diggers Zoom. We had such a lovely time together, didn't we? And it was lovely to make some cookies together. I hope yours tasted nice. Mine were very tasty. I wonder, were you able to share them with people? I saw some pictures of those of you that were sharing them. It looks like you were being very generous and kind, which is lovely. We are looking, aren't we, at Diggers Together over these few weeks at people who had meals with Jesus. Today, lovely Cheryl is going to tell us a story from the Bible about a man who had a meal with Jesus. Now, I wonder if you have ever lost anything. I once lost my watch. It was the strangest thing. One minute it was on my wrist, and then the next minute it was gone. And you know, I looked everywhere for it, absolutely everywhere. We were away camping at the time, and I looked all over the field, in my tent, and I couldn't find it. I was very sad. About 2 years later, I was getting ready to go to Junction, which is a club that we run for primary school children, and we can't wait to start doing that again soon. And I thought we'd play a game called the yes and no game, and so we needed some dried peas to play that game. Well, why am I telling you this, I wonder? I went to my cupboard and I got the box of dried peas. I opened it, and would you believe, inside was my watch. How amazing, and how excited was I to find my watch. Maybe you've lost something in your house. I tell you what, we always lose one of these. Do you know what it is? It's a remote control for the television, and always we are looking for it, saying, where's the remote? Where's the remote? Have you ever done that at home? Well, we've got a solution for that. Look at this lovely pillow. It says remote here. And we've got that here so we know where the TV remote is. But it's hard, isn't it, when you lose something? Have you ever been lost yourself? Now that is really sad. If that has ever happened to you, you'll know what I mean. You feel frightened, don't you? And you feel upset because you don't know where your grown-up has gone. And it's not a nice feeling to be lost. Well, today in our Bible story, we are learning about a man who was lost. He wasn't lost in that he didn't know where he was. He knew exactly where he was. He wasn't lost as in he'd lost his way, but he was lost from God. He was separated from God, and he realised that he was lost. And the amazing thing is that Jesus came and found him. We're going to go over to Cheryl now, and she's going to tell us the story from Luke chapter 19.
Today I'm going to tell you about a man in the Bible called Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a tax collector working for the Romans. This meant he had to collect money from his own people, the Jews, and pay it to the Romans. Unfortunately, Zacchaeus often took more money than he should have done. For example, if a family owed £5 in taxes, Zacchaeus would take £10 or £20 and keep the extra for himself. He had been doing this for quite some time and had become very rich, cheating and stealing from his own people, and they considered him to be a traitor. In fact, Zacchaeus was the most hated man in town. Zacchaeus loved money more than he loved people, and he was greedy and selfish and very far from God. The Bible also tells us that Zacchaeus was a short man. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being short, but it sometimes makes life difficult if you want to reach something that's up high, or you want to see something and all those tall people just get in the way. We'll find out in a moment how being short caused Zacchaeus a little bit of a problem. Now, at that time, Jesus and his disciples were travelling to Jerusalem, and on their way they came to Jericho, which is the town where Zacchaeus lived. Now, as you know, wherever Jesus went, he attracted lots of people, and it was no different in Jericho. The people of Jericho were very excited to see Jesus, to hear what he might say to them, and perhaps see him perform miracles. Maybe Jesus would make some very ill people better. Maybe he would make a blind person able to see again. Even Zacchaeus, the wicked tax collector, wanted to see Jesus. But when Zacchaeus went out into the street to watch Jesus passing by, he discovered that lots of crowds had already gathered. And no matter where he went, he couldn't find a place to stand or a place to squeeze into. And because he was so short, he couldn't see over the crowds. He was going to miss seeing Jesus. But then, a little further along the road, Zacchaeus spotted a sycamore fig tree. Now, it would be very undignified for Zacchaeus, a grown man in his very fine robes, to be climbing trees. But in that moment, Zacchaeus didn't care. He just wanted to see Jesus. He didn't care that he would look a bit silly. He didn't care what people thought. He climbed that tree as fast as those short legs would carry him. And when he was up in that tree, he had a really good view. He could see over the crowd, he could see along the road, and he could see Jesus coming his way. Then something very unexpected happened. Jesus stopped right by the tree where Zacchaeus was, and he looked up and he looked directly at Zacchaeus and said, "Zacchaeus, come down. Today I'm coming to your house." Well, Zacchaeus was thrilled and he quickly climbed back down the tree. He was probably thinking, Jesus knows my name. Jesus is coming to my house. He was happy and excited. But the people who were there listening to this, they weren't happy and excited at all. In fact, some of them were thinking, why? Why would Jesus want to go and have a meal with Zacchaeus? Doesn't Jesus realise what kind of man Zacchaeus is? He's a rotten sinner. And some of the people might have been thinking, but I'm a good person. Why doesn't Jesus want to come to my house and have a meal with me? So the crowd were a bit confused and grumbling and angry and probably hated Zacchaeus even more. But Jesus went home with Zacchaeus. Now, as we know, Zacchaeus was very rich and could serve Jesus a fine meal. But that wasn't the reason Jesus chose to go home with Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus knew he was a guilty sinner. And when Jesus was in his home, Zacchaeus stood in front of him and hung his head in shame. It says in the Bible, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, "I will give half of my money to the poor. If I have cheated anyone, I will pay back that person 4 times as much." Jesus said, "Salvation has come to this house today. This man truly belongs to the family of Abraham. The Son of Man came to find lost people and save them." So Zacchaeus was a changed man. But before we talk about that, I think it's time for a song.